In the grand narrative of human civilization, there are inventions that not only change the way we live, but also reshape the very way we think and develop. The invention of paper by the ancient Chinese was one such profound revolution. It was not a single eureka moment, but a process of persistent refinement, born from the pressing needs of society and culminating in the synthesis and perfection by a brilliant historical figure. Today, we will delve into this remarkable journey, analyzing the context that demanded its creation, the innovative steps of its development, and its far-reaching impact on global civilization. 1. The historical context, a thirst for a superior writing medium. Before the advent of paper, the world of knowledge in ancient China was recorded on materials that were incredibly cumbersome and expensive. On animal bones and turtle shells, these were the earliest forms of writing, primarily used for divination and ritual purposes. While durable, they were extremely heavy, difficult to inscribe, and wholly unsuitable for recording lengthy texts on bamboo and wooden slips. For centuries, this was the most common medium. Bamboo or wood had to be split into thin strips, dried, and then written upon. A single book could require hundreds or even thousands of these slips, which were then bound together with string. Transporting, storing, and referencing them was a monumental challenge. On silk. Silk represented a major step forward. It was lightweight, smooth, easy to write on, and portable. However, silk was a luxury commodity, prohibitively expensive and accessible only to the imperial court and the highest echelons of the aristocracy. Its cost made it impossible to serve as a widespread medium for knowledge. This context created an urgent demand from history. A new writing material was needed, one that was as light as silk yet as inexpensive and easy to produce as bamboo. This need was the fertile ground from which the invention of paper would grow. 2. The decisive turning point, Cai Lun and the Great Innovation. While archaeological evidence suggests that primitive forms of paper existed as early as the Western Han Dynasty around the 2nd century BCE, these early versions were coarse, thick, and of inconsistent quality. The true revolution arrived in 105 AD, during the Eastern Han Dynasty, and is inextricably linked to the name Cai Lun, a court eunuch. Cai Lun was not the very first person to make paper, but he was the one who systematized, refined, and perfected the manufacturing process, transforming paper from an experimental material into a practical product suitable for mass production. He is rightly regarded as the father of modern papermaking. His genius lay in his choice of raw materials. Instead of relying solely on expensive hemp fibers, Cai Lun pioneered a formula that combined cheap, abundant, and even discarded materials: tree bark, old fishing nets, scraps of cloth and rags, hemp waste. The use of these materials was a brilliant innovation. Not only did it drastically reduce the cost, but it was also an early form of recycling, an incredibly progressive concept for its time. Thanks to this breakthrough, paper was ready to move beyond the palace walls and into the hands of the people. 3. The manufacturing process, for steps of ingenuity. The papermaking process perfected by Cai Lun, though nearly 2,000 years old, is still based on four fundamental steps. It is an elegant blend of mechanical and chemical processes. Step 1. Preparation and cooking. The raw materials bark, rags, nets were chopped, washed, and soaked. They were then cooked in a large vat with an alkaline solution, typically water mixed with wood ash, for several days. This process helped break down the fiber structure, dissolving impurities like lignin and pectin, and softening the raw materials. Step 2. Pounding and grinding. After being cooked and softened, the materials were placed in a stone mortar and pounded with a pestle or by water-powered trip hammers. The goal of this stage was to beat the cellulose fibers apart, separating them completely to form a fine, uniform, watery mixture known as pulp slurry. The consistency of this pulp would directly determine the quality of the final paper sheet. Step 3. Sheet formation. This is the most skillful and artistic step in the process. The papermaker would dip a screen mold a wooden frame with a fine bamboo or cloth mesh stretched across it into the vat of pulp. They would gently shake the mold, allowing the tiny cellulose fibers to interlock randomly on the screen's surface as the water drained through. The thickness of the paper was controlled by the amount of pulp gathered and the artisan's technique. Step 4. Pressing and drying. The wet layer of pulp on the mold was carefully transferred onto a stack of previously formed sheets. This entire stack was then placed under a press to squeeze out most of the remaining water. Finally, each damp sheet was carefully peeled off and left to dry, either by being brushed onto heated walls, laid out in the sun, or hung in a well-ventilated room. Once dry, the finished sheets of paper were ready for writing and painting. The invention of paper was not just a technical achievement, it was a catalyst for societal transformation. The invention of paper by the ancient Chinese is a powerful testament to the force of innovation when driven by practical necessity. From the inconvenience of bamboo slips, through the genius of Cai Lun's improvements, to the elegant four-step process, paper emerged as one of the 4 great inventions of ancient China. Papermaking in the modern era. Continuing this great legacy, the modern paper industry has made unimaginable strides. The journey from Cai Lun's manual workshop to the colossal paper mills of the 21st century is one of optimization, automation, and massive scale. What is astonishing, however, is that the core principle of papermaking has remained unchanged. It is still the process of separating cellulose fibers from plants, suspending them in water to create a pulp slurry, and then draining the water to allow the fibers to bond together into a flat sheet. So, how has this process been transformed in the industrial age? While Cai Lun took a giant leap by using bark and rags, today's primary source of cellulose is wood pulp. Trees grown in sustainably managed forests are harvested, debarked, and chipped into small pieces. The wood chips are cooked with chemicals to dissolve the lignin, leaving behind pure cellulose fibers. This process results in higher quality, whiter, and more durable paper, ideal for writing and printing books. Furthermore, a critically important raw material that elevates Cai Lun's spirit of recycling to a new level is used paper. Recycled paper reduces the demand on forest resources and helps protect the environment. The 4 manual steps of antiquity are performed by enormous, integrated machines, most notably the four-denier machine, which can be hundreds of feet long and operate continuously. The pulping stage. Instead of stone mortar, modern mills use massive refiners and chemical digesters that process tons of wood chips at a time, creating pulp on an industrial scale. The sheet forming stage. This is the heart of the modern mill. The diluted pulp is pumped into a head box, which sprays a consistent, thin stream of the slurry onto a rapidly moving wire mesh screen. The press section. After leaving the wire screen, the damp web of paper passes through a series of massive rollers that press out much of the remaining water, compacting and strengthening the sheet. The dryer section. Instead of being dried on heated walls, the paper sheet zigzags through a long series of steam-heated cast iron cylinders. By the time it exits this section, the paper's moisture content is only about 5%. It is then wound into massive jumbo rolls that can weigh several tons. After leaving the main machine, the jumbo rolls are cut to smaller sizes or given surface coatings to create a glossy finish like that used for magazines before being packaged and delivered to consumers. From the first handmade sheets of the Han Dynasty to the industrial rolls produced at thousands of feet per minute, the journey of paper is a magnificent symphony of heritage and technology. Though machines have replaced human hands and the scale has multiplied a millionfold, the essence of the invention remains intact, transforming simple plant fibers into an indispensable medium for recording, transmitting, and advancing human knowledge. That is the enduring power of a truly great idea.